The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around a central platform where the most important beings in the galaxy would speak. Today, that platform held High Chancellor Vexstar, a creature that looked like a giant insect with 4 bright yellow eyes and skin that shimmered like metal. Vexstar stood perfectly still as representatives from 12 different alien species filled the massive chamber. The Zorlakians looked like walking beetles with shells that reflected the light. The crystalline beings were tall and thin, made of what appeared to be living glass. The fungal collective members resembled giant mushrooms that glowed with soft, purple light. Each species had traveled from distant stars to attend this meeting. The air buzzed with translation devices working overtime. Every click, chirp, growl, and whistle was converted into the common galactic language. The sound created a strange melody that filled the enormous space. "Fellow members of the Council," Vexstar began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Thanks to advanced speakers, we gather today to discuss a serious problem. The human species has broken our most sacred laws." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. The humans had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, making them the newest members. Most species had taken centuries to earn their place at the table, but the humans had somehow impressed the Council with their quick thinking and strange ability to solve problems that had puzzled other races for generations. "What exactly have they done?" asked Ambassador Krethos, a bird-like creature with golden feathers and a voice like singing wind chimes. He represented the Avian Supremacy, one of the oldest members of the Council. Vexstar S. Four Eyes focused on a holographic display that appeared above the platform. It showed a star map of the Kepler sector, a region of space that had been designated as neutral territory for over 300 years. The humans have built 17 mining stations and 4 research outposts in the Kepler sector without filing the proper applications, Vexstar announced. They have also established 3 small colonies on previously uninhabited worlds. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and angry chittering. The crystalline representative created a sound like breaking glass, which was their way of expressing outrage. The fungal collective member released a cloud of bright orange spores that glowed with indignation. "This is unacceptable," declared General Morduk of the Reptilian Alliance. His species looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs, and they were known for their strict adherence to rules and regulations. "The humans must be taught that they cannot simply ignore our laws." "But surely this is just a misunderstanding," suggested Dr. Yelanara of the Peaceful Collective. Her species looked like floating jellyfish made of light, and they were known for trying to find diplomatic solutions to every problem. Perhaps the humans simply did not understand the proper procedures. Vexstar's expression grew darker. "We have investigated this matter thoroughly. The humans were given all the necessary documentation when they joined the Council. They have translation devices, they have legal advisors. There is no excuse for this behavior." The truth was more complicated than Vexstar was letting on. The humans had indeed received all the proper documentation, but it consisted of over 40,000 pages of regulations written in 17 different languages. The filing process for establishing any presence in neutral space required approval from 9 different committees, each with their own specific requirements and waiting periods. Most species took years to get permission for even simple research missions. The humans had looked at this system, decided it was inefficient, and had simply gone ahead with their plans while filing the paperwork as an afterthought. "What do you propose we do about this situation?" asked Commander Zixtalov. The warrior caste, a species that looked like living rocks with glowing eyes. They were known for their direct approach to problem-solving. Vexstar raised his ceremonial staff, a crystalline rod that had been passed down through generations of council leaders. "The time for diplomacy has passed. The humans have shown complete disrespect for our authority and our laws. There's only one appropriate response." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what was coming, but no one wanted to be the first to say it. "I hereby call for a formal declaration of war against the human species," Vexstar announced. The silence that followed was deafening. In the 300-year history of the Galactic Council, war had only been declared twice, both times against species that had committed acts of genocide against entire worlds. The idea of declaring war over mining stations and research outposts seemed extreme. "Are you certain this is necessary?" asked Dr. Yulanara, her light form flickering with concern. "Perhaps we could simply demand that they remove their installations and pay a fine. The humans must learn that actions have consequences," Vextar replied firmly. "If we allow this behavior to continue, other species will think they can ignore our laws as well. The entire foundation of galactic civilization depends on respect for proper procedures." One by one, the representatives voted. The Zorlakians voted yes, as did the Reptilian Alliance and the Warrior Caste. The Crystalline Hegemony reluctantly agreed, followed by the Fungal Collective. The Peaceful Collective voted no, along with 2 other species, but they were outnumbered. The final vote was 9 in favor, 3 against. War was declared. "Very well," Vextar announced. "Let the record show that on this day, the Galactic Council has declared a state of war against the human species. We will assemble a punishment fleet to demonstrate the consequences of defying our authority." As the representatives filed out of the chamber, many of them felt uneasy about what they had just done. The humans were strange, but they had never shown any signs of aggression. They seemed more interested in exploring and learning than in conquering territory. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in his small office in the Terran Diplomatic Corps building in Geneva. The office was nothing special, just a desk, a few chairs, and a window that looked out on the city below. The walls were covered with certificates and photos from various diplomatic missions. Jake was reading through his daily reports when his computer chimed with an incoming message. The sender was listed as Galactic Council Official Communication. He opened it expecting another routine update about trade regulations or cultural exchange programs. Instead, he found himself reading a formal declaration of war. Jake read the document 3 times to make sure he understood it correctly. According to the Council, humanity was now officially at war with 12 alien species because they had built some mining stations without proper authorization. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. After 20 years in the diplomatic service, he thought he had seen everything, but this was definitely a first. "Lisa," he called to his assistant in the outer office, "can you get me a secure line to the Pentagon?" "Right away, sir. Is everything okay?" "I'm not sure yet." "Also, maybe order some pizza for the office. I have a feeling we're going to be here for a while." Jake looked out his window at the busy city below. People were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their species had just been declared war upon by the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. He wondered how they would react when they found out, probably with the same mixture of confusion and mild annoyance that he was feeling right now. War over paperwork. He shook his head and reached for his secure phone. This was going to be a very long day. General Kate Sullivan was having what she thought would be a normal Tuesday morning. She sat at her desk in the Pentagon, drinking her 3rd cup of coffee and reviewing training reports from the Mars Defense Academy. The numbers were good, recruitment was up, and the new cadets were adapting well to zero-gravity combat training. Her secure phone buzzed. The caller ID showed it was Ambassador Morrison from the Diplomatic Corps. Kate had worked with Jake before on various space defense issues, and she respected his judgment. "Morning, Jake. What can I do for you?" "Kate, I need you to sit down for this one." She was already sitting, but something in his voice made her put down her coffee mug. "What's wrong?" "The Galactic Council just declared war on us." Kate stared at the phone for a moment. "I'm sorry, what?" "War official declaration. Came through about an hour ago on all diplomatic channels." "War over what? Did we accidentally blow up one of their space stations or something?" Jake's voice carried a note of disbelief. "Mining stations, Kate? We built some mining stations in the Kepler sector without filing the right paperwork." Kate leaned back in her chair. "You're telling me that 12 alien species, some of which can destroy entire planets, have declared war on humanity because we didn't fill out forms correctly?" That's exactly what I'm telling you. And they're serious about this? Dead serious. They're assembling something called a punishment fleet to, quote, make an example of us, unquote. Kate rubbed her temples. She had been in the military for 28 years and had dealt with every kind of crisis imaginable. Terrorist attacks, alien first contact, space pirate raids, even a robot uprising on one of the mining colonies. But this was something completely new. How big is this punishment fleet? According to our intelligence sources, about 300 ships from various council member species. 300. Kate pulled up the current fleet roster on her computer. Jake, you do realize we currently have over 2,000 active warships in our space fleet, right? I was hoping you'd mention that. And another 1,500 in reserve that we could activate within a week. Even better. Kate scrolled through the technical specifications. Our ships are also designed for actual combat, not ceremonial parades. Most of the alien vessels we've seen are beautiful, but they're not built for war. So what do? Well, first I need to brief the Joint Chiefs. Then we need to inform the President. After that, I guess we figure out how to fight a war that nobody really wants. 20 minutes later, Kate stood in the Situation Room with the other military leaders. Admiral Robert Hayes commanded the Space Navy, General Paul Carter ran the Marine Corps, and General Lisa Park was in charge of the Air Force. They all looked as confused as Kate felt. So, let me make sure I understand this correctly, Admiral Hayes said, reading from the briefing document. The aliens are mad because we built some mining stations without permission. That's correct, Kate replied. And instead of just asking U.S. to move them, they decided to declare war. Also correct. General Carter shook his head. Have they actually studied our military capabilities? I mean, we've been fighting wars for thousands of years. It's kind of what we do. Apparently not, Kate said. Our intelligence suggests they think we're a peaceful species, because we haven't been involved in any major galactic conflicts. That's because we only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, General Park pointed out. Before that, we were too busy fighting each other to bother with aliens. The secure phone in the center of the table rang. It was a direct line to the President. Put him through, Kate said. President Danny Chun's voice came through the speakers. I've just been briefed on the situation. Please tell me this is some kind of joke. I'm afraid not, Mr. President, Kate replied. The Galactic Council has officially declared war on the United States of Earth. Over mining stations. Yes, sir. Mining stations that we built in empty space. Correct. There was a long pause. General Sullivan, in your professional opinion, how would this war go if we actually fought it? Kate looked around the table at her colleagues. They all nodded grimly. Mr. President, it would be over in a matter of hours. Maybe days if we wanted to be really careful about it. And casualties on our side? Minimal, sir. Their weapons technology is about 50 years behind ours, and their ships aren't designed for combat. What about their side? That would depend on how much they wanted to fight, sir. The President sighed. I'll be calling an emergency cabinet meeting in 1 hour. I want options, people. We need to figure out how to handle this without turning into the galactic bullies. After the call ended, the military leaders sat in silence for a moment. You know what the really crazy part is? Admiral Hayes said finally. They could have just asked us to move the mining stations. We would have said yes. Why didn't they? General Carter asked. Because that's not how their system works, Kate explained. From what I've read about galactic politics, everything has to go through committees and formal procedures. The idea of just picking up a phone and talking to someone is apparently foreign to them. So what do we do now? General Park asked. Kate stood up. We do what we always do. We prepare for war while hoping for peace. I want all fleet commanders briefed within the hour. Full defensive posture around Earth and the colonies. And someone needs to figure out how to explain to 3 million military personnel that we're at war with aliens over paperwork. Meanwhile, in the White House, President Chun was meeting with his cabinet. The atmosphere in the room was tense, but not with fear. It was the tension of people trying to figure out how to solve a problem that shouldn't exist. So what are our options? The president asked. Secretary of Defense Amy Rodriguez spoke first. Militarily, we could end this conflict very quickly, but that would probably make us look like the bad guys to the rest of the galaxy. What about diplomatically? The president asked. Secretary of State Mike Thompson shifted uncomfortably. That's the problem, sir. According to galactic law, once war is declared, diplomatic solutions become much more complicated. We'd have to either surrender or achieve total victory before negotiations can begin. Surrender is obviously not an option, the president said. And total victory sounds like it would involve destroying their entire fleet. Not necessarily, Amy said. We could probably disable their ships without killing anyone. Our weapons are precise enough for that. The president rubbed his chin thoughtfully. What do we know about this punishment fleet they're sending? It's commanded by Admiral Krithos of the Avian Supremacy, Mike replied. He's considered one of their best military minds, but he's never actually fought in a real war. None of them have. How long do we have? Their fleet should reach our outer system in about 72 hours. President Chen stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see people walking around Washington, D.C., going about their normal lives. None of them knew that their planet was about to be visited by an alien war fleet. Here's what we're going to do, he said finally. We're going to meet this fleet with a proportional response. Nothing too aggressive, but enough to show that we're not helpless. Then we're going to try to talk to them like reasonable beings. And if they won't listen, Amy asked. The president turned back to face the room. Then we'll have to show them the difference between declaring war and actually fighting one. 3 hours later, the news broke on every major network. The headlines were almost identical. Earth at war with alien alliance over mining dispute. The public reaction was swift and predictable. Most people were confused. Some were angry. A few were excited at the prospect of humanity's first real space war. But the overwhelming response was simple bewilderment on social media. The most common reaction was some variation of, "That's it? They're starting a war over mining stations." It was exactly the same reaction that Jake Morrison had in his office. That morning, humanity as a whole seemed to be responding to this declaration of war with a collective shrug. The aliens had expected fear. They had expected panic. They had expected desperate attempts at negotiation. They had not expected humanity to treat their declaration of war like a minor inconvenience. Admiral Krithos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Talon of Justice, watching the blue and green planet Earth grow larger on the main view screen. The ship was a masterpiece of avian engineering, built from crystalline materials that caught and reflected starlight in beautiful patterns. It had taken his people 300 years to perfect the design around him. The punishment fleet moved in perfect formation. 300 ships from 12 different species, each one representing the finest military technology their civilization could offer. The Zorlakian vessels looked like enormous beetles with armor that gleamed like polished metal. The fungal collective ships resembled giant floating spores, their bioluminescent surfaces pulsing with soft light. The crystalline hegemony had contributed ships that looked like living diamonds, refracting light in spectacular displays. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, a young avian named Valtar, "we have reached the outer edge of the human solar system. Shall we begin the ceremonial approach?" Krithos nodded. "Maintain formation. We must look properly intimidating. The humans need to understand the full power of the Galactic Council." The fleet had been traveling for 3 days, and during that time, Krithos had studied everything the Council knew about human military capabilities. The reports were not particularly impressive. The humans had a decent space fleet, but it was clearly designed for patrol duties and minor conflicts with space pirates. They had never fought a real war against a galactic power. "Sir," Valtar sighed, "we're detecting human ships approaching our position." "How many?" 50 vessels, sir. "They appear to be moving to intercept us." Krithos almost laughed. 50 ships against 300. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Open a communication channel. Let's see what they have to say. The main view screen flickered and showed the bridge of a human warship. The vessel looked utilitarian and ugly compared to the artistic beauty of council ships. Everything was gray metal and harsh angles with no attempt at aesthetic appeal. A middle-aged human male appeared on screen. He wore a simple uniform and had short brown hair. His expression was calm, almost bored. "This is Commander Ryan Foster of the United Earthship Defender. You are entering human space without permission. Please state your intentions." Krithos drew himself up to his full height, spreading his golden wings slightly for dramatic effect. "I am Admiral Krithos of the Avian Supremacy, commander of the Galactic Council Punishment Fleet. We have come to enforce the Council's declaration of war against your species." Commander Foster looked confused. "War over the mining stations? Your species has violated sacred galactic law. You must face the consequences." "Admiral, with respect, couldn't we just relocate the mining stations? I mean, they're not exactly permanent installations." Krithos was taken aback. In all his years of military service, he had never had an enemy suggest such a reasonable solution during a war declaration. "The time for negotiation has passed, human. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Foster exchanged glances with someone off-screen. "Admiral, are you absolutely sure you want to do this? We really don't want to fight you." "Your cowardice is noted, but surrender will not save your species. You must be taught proper respect for galactic authority," Foster sighed. "Lieutenant Walsh, are you getting all this?" A female voice responded from off-screen. "Yes, sir. The alien admiral is definitely serious about this war thing. And they're not interested in just moving the mining stations?" "Apparently not, sir." Foster looked back at the screen. "Admiral, you destroyed some asteroids on your way here. We detected the energy signatures. Are you trying to intimidate us?" "Those asteroids were destroyed by our most powerful weapons," Krithos said proudly. "Surely you understand the futility of resistance now." "Admiral, our mining ships do that every day. That's literally what asteroid mining is." "Impossible. Our particle beam cannons are the finest weapons in the galaxy." Foster rubbed his forehead. "Lieutenant Walsh, please show the Admiral our standard mining demonstration." The communication channel switched to an external view of the human fleet. One of the ships, no larger than a council escort vessel, turned toward a small moon orbiting a gas giant in the outer system. A single beam of energy lanced out from the ship. The moon vanished, not destroyed, not broken apart, but completely vaporized. Where a celestial body had existed moments before, there was now only empty space and a rapidly expanding cloud of glowing particles. The entire council fleet fell silent. Every ship's sensors confirmed what they had just witnessed. The humans had just erased a moon using what they claimed was mining equipment. "Admiral," Foster said gently, "that was our mining laser. It's designed for breaking up asteroids for easier processing. Our actual weapons are considerably more powerful." Krithos felt his feathers ruffling with shock. That's impossible. No species in the galaxy possesses such destructive capability." "Admiral, we've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at making weapons. But the council records show that humans are a peaceful species." "We are peaceful. That doesn't mean we're helpless." Krithos turned to his tactical officer. "Veltar, run a full sensor sweep of the human fleet. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The young avian worked frantically at his console. "Sir, the readings are ... concerning. Each human ship carries approximately 10 times the firepower of our most advanced battleships. Their defensive systems appear to be designed to withstand attacks that would destroy our entire fleet." "And their total fleet strength?" "According to our intelligence, over 2,000 active warships, sir." Krithos felt his legs go weak. 2,000? Yes, sir. And they appear to have another 1,500 ships in reserve. The Admiral looked back at the view screen where Commander Foster was waiting patiently. "Commander, if your species possesses such overwhelming military superiority, why haven't you conquered the galaxy?" Foster looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would we want to conquer the galaxy? We just want to mine asteroids and explore space." Conquering people sounds like a lot of work. But with your power, you could rule over all other species. Admiral, we can barely manage to rule ourselves. The last thing we need is to be responsible for a bunch of alien civilizations, too. Krithos was struggling to understand. Every military doctrine he had ever studied said that superior force led to conquest. The idea of a species with overwhelming power choosing not to use it was completely foreign to him. "Commander," he said. Slowly, "what exactly do you want from us?" "We want you to go home, Admiral. We want to sit down with the Council and work out a proper procedure for filing mining permits. We want to apologize for the paperwork mix-up and make sure it doesn't happen again. You ... Want to apologize?" "Yes, we're new to this whole galactic civilization thing. We made a mistake. We're sorry." Krithos looked around his bridge at his confused crew. None of them had ever encountered an enemy that wanted to apologize in the middle of a war declaration. "Admiral," Valtar whispered, "what do we do now?" Before Krithos could answer, another human voice came through the communication channel. "Admiral, this is Captain Jennifer Martinez of the UES Peacekeeper. I'm being ordered to inform you that reinforcements are arriving." The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts appearing throughout the system. Human ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at strategic points surrounding the Council fleet. "How many ships?" Krithos asked weakly. 200 additional vessels, sir," Valtar reported. "They have us completely surrounded. And they're all armed with weapons like the one that destroyed the moon?" "Yes, sir." Commander Foster reappeared on the screen. "Admiral, I want you to understand something important. We could end this engagement right now. Our weapons have longer range than yours, higher power output, and faster targeting systems. But we don't want to hurt you." "Then what do you want?" "We want you to call the Council and explain that this was all a big misunderstanding. We want to work together to prevent this kind of problem in the future. We want to be good neighbors." Krithos stared at the human commander. "You're offering us mercy?" "We're offering you friendship, Admiral. There's a difference." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Krithos didn't know what to do. He had come here to punish a defiant species, but instead he had found a civilization that was apologetic, reasonable, and capable of destroying his entire fleet without breaking a sweat. "Commander Foster," he said finally, "I think I need to make some calls." The communication between Admiral Krithos and the Galactic Council was not going well. The Admiral sat in his private quarters aboard the Talon of Justice, speaking through an encrypted channel to High Chancellor Vextar and the other Council members. The holographic projections of the alien leaders flickered around him, their expressions ranging from confused to angry. "Explain to me again why your fleet has not yet begun the attack," Vextar demanded, his 4 eyes glowing with irritation. Krithos took a deep breath. "Chancellor, the situation is more complicated than we anticipated. The humans possess military capabilities that far exceed our initial estimates." "Impossible," declared General Morduk of the Reptilian Alliance. "Our intelligence reports clearly state that humans are a young species with limited military experience." "Our intelligence reports were wrong," Krithos replied. "I have personally witnessed human weapons that can destroy moons. Their smallest ships carry more firepower than our largest battleships." The holographic figures exchanged glances. Dr. Yelinara of the Peaceful Collective flickered with concern. "Admiral, are you saying they pose a genuine threat to our forces?" "I'm saying they could destroy our entire fleet without suffering a single casualty." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Finally, Commander Zixtal of the warrior caste spoke up. "If this is true, why have they not attacked? Any rational species would eliminate threats to their territory." "That's what I don't understand," Krithos admitted. "They keep apologizing. They want to relocate their mining stations and file proper paperwork. They seem genuinely sorry for the administrative error." "This could be a trap," suggested the crystalline hegemony representative, their voice creating musical chimes. "Perhaps they want us to lower our guard." "With respect," Krithos said, "they don't need us to lower our guard. They already have us surrounded by ships that could vaporize us at any moment. Back on the bridge of the UES Defender, Commander Foster was having his own difficult conversation. Admiral Carol Davis had arrived with the reinforcement fleet and was now in overall command of the human forces. She was a stern woman in her 50s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Commander, what's the status of the alien fleet?" she asked. "They're maintaining position at the edge of our engagement range, Admiral. They seem to be having some kind of internal debate." "Any hostile actions?" "None, ma'am." They fired a few warning shots at some asteroids when they first arrived, but that's it. Admiral Davis studied the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. The alien ships were beautiful and impressive, but her experienced eye could see they were not designed for actual combat. They were parade ships, built more for show than for war. What do our intelligence reports say about their actual military experience? She asked. Lieutenant Nancy Walsh looked up from her station. "According to our files, the Galactic Council has maintained peace for over 300 years. None of these species have fought in a real war during that time. 300 years of peace," Davis mused. "That's longer than humanity has had spaceflight." "Yes, ma'am." "They've settled all disputes through committees and diplomatic procedures." Davis shook her head. "No wonder they think filing paperwork is worth starting a war over. They'd forgotten what war actually means." The communication system chimed with an incoming message from the alien fleet. Admiral Krethos appeared on the main screen, looking tired and frustrated. "Admiral Davis, I am Admiral Krethos. I believe we need to discuss this situation." "I agree, Admiral. What did you have in mind?" "My superiors are ordering me to begin the attack. However, after observing your capabilities, I believe this would result in the complete destruction of my fleet." Davis nodded. "It would, Admiral. I won't lie to you about that. Yet you continue to offer peaceful solutions." "Why?" "Because this is all just a big misunderstanding, Admiral. We don't want to hurt anyone over some mining stations." Krethos leaned forward. "Admiral, may I ask you something about human military?" "History? Of course. How many wars has your species fought?" Davis paused to think. "I couldn't give you an exact number, Admiral. Thousands, probably. We've been fighting wars for as long as we've had recorded history." "And how many of those wars were fought over administrative disputes?" "Exactly 0, Admiral. Then why are we here?" Davis smiled sadly. "Because your people have been peaceful for so long that you've forgotten the difference between a minor bureaucratic problem and something worth fighting over. What would humans do in a situation like this?" "We'd send a strongly worded letter, maybe impose some fines. If we were really angry, we might suspend trade relations for a while. But war over unfiled paperwork? That's insane." Krethos was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, what would happen if I ordered my fleet to withdraw?" "We'd escort you safely out of our space and then send our diplomats to have a nice long chat with your council about proper dispute resolution procedures." "And if I ordered my fleet to attack?" Davis's expression grew serious. "Admiral, you seem like a reasonable person. Don't make me answer that question." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Chun was meeting with his military advisors in the situation room. The mood was tense but controlled. "What's the latest from our fleet?" he asked. "Admiral Davis reports that the alien fleet is hesitating," General Sullivan replied. "Their commander seems to be having second thoughts about attacking." "Good. What about public reaction?" Secretary of State Thompson pulled up some polling data. "The American public is split between amusement and annoyance. Most people think the whole thing is ridiculous. There have been some protests outside alien embassies, but they're peaceful. Mostly people holding signs that say things like, 'We're sorry about the paperwork.' International reaction? The other Earth governments are backing our position. Everyone agrees this is a massive overreaction by the Council." President Chun leaned back in his chair. "So we have an alien fleet that doesn't really want to fight, a public that thinks the whole thing is stupid, and enough firepower to end this in minutes if we have to." "That's about the size of it, sir," General Sullivan confirmed. "Then let's Try something different. 20 minutes later, President Chun was speaking directly to the alien fleet via open communication channels. His image appeared on every ship in both fleets. Admiral Kretho, I am President Danny Chun of the United States of Earth. I understand you have some concerns about our mining operations. The alien admiral appeared on screen, looking surprised. Mr. President, this is highly irregular. Wartime. Communications should go through military channels. Admiral, this isn't really a war. This is a customer service complaint that got way out of hand. I don't understand. You're upset because we didn't fill out the right forms. That's not a military problem, that's an administrative problem. So let's solve it like adults. Chun gestured to someone off-screen. I'm transmitting the completed application forms for all our mining operations in the Kepler sector. I've also included a formal apology for the delay and a proposal for streamlining the application process so this doesn't happen again. Krethos stared at the screen. You're filling out the paperwork in the middle of a war? Admiral, there is no war. There's just a filing error that spiraled out of control, but the Council has declared war. That cannot be undone. Actually, it can. I'm also transmitting a formal request for an emergency council session to discuss revising your conflict resolution procedures. Because, Admiral, if you declare war every time someone makes a paperwork mistake, you're going to be fighting a lot of unnecessary wars. President Chun leaned forward. Admiral, let me ask you something. In your personal opinion, is this really worth people dying over? Krethos was quiet for a long moment. No, Mr. President, it is not. Then let's fix it. The Admiral looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all young avians who had never seen real combat. They had joined the military thinking they would be peacekeepers and diplomats, not warriors. Mr. President, he said finally, what exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing we all go home, file the proper paperwork, and set up some better communication procedures so this doesn't happen again. I'm also proposing that the Council consider the difference between administrative violations and acts of war, and if the Council disagrees? President Chun's expression grew serious. Admiral, we've shown remarkable restraint so far. But if your people insist on treating filing errors as acts of war, we might have to teach you the difference between the two. The threat was delivered calmly, but every alien in the fleet understood its implications. They had seen what human mining equipment could do. Admiral Krethos made his decision. Admiral Krethos stood alone in his command chamber, staring out at the stars through the crystal walls of his ship. Behind him, the bridge crew waited nervously for his decision. In front of him on the view screen, President Chun's calm face waited for an answer. The Admiral had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. He had studied military strategy, learned the art of space combat, and risen through the ranks of the avian supremacy's finest fleet. But nothing in his training had prepared him for this situation. Mr. President, he said slowly, I need to consult with my fleet commanders before making any decisions. Of course, Admiral. Take all the time you need. The communication channel closed, leaving Krethos alone with his thoughts. He activated his ship's internal communication system and called for an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders. Within minutes, holographic projections of 12 different alien commanders appeared around him. Each represented a different species and a different perspective on the current crisis. Fellow commanders, Krethos began, we face an unprecedented situation. The humans have offered us a peaceful solution to this conflict. Commander Thorak of the Zorlakian Empire, a beetle-like creature with gleaming armor, clicked his mandibles in disagreement. Admiral, we have our orders. The Council expects us to punish the humans for their defiance. But what if our orders are wrong? Asked Captain Yulsan of the Peaceful Collective, her jellyfish-like form glowing with concern. The humans clearly never intended to defy anyone. They simply made an administrative error. Orders are orders, insisted General Zorth of the warrior caste, his rock-like features showing no emotion. We cannot simply abandon our mission because the enemy appears reasonable. Commander Velkara of the Crystalline Hegemony chimed in, with a sound like singing crystal. Have any of you actually looked at the tactical analysis? The humans could destroy our entire fleet before we could return fire. That is irrelevant, Thoric declared. We have sworn an oath to uphold council law, even if it means the death of every person under our command? Krithos asked quietly. The holographic chamber fell silent. Each commander was thinking about their crews, their families, their people back home who were counting on them to return safely. Captain Sylvan of the Fungal Collective, whose mushroom-like form glowed with bioluminescent patterns, spoke first. Admiral, I have 3,000 crew members aboard my ships. Most of them are young. None of them have ever seen real combat. Is filing a form correctly really worth their lives? The principle matters, Thoric insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. Does it? Asked Commander Yilsan. The humans have apologized. They've offered to relocate their mining stations. They have even filled out the proper paperwork and submitted it for approval. What more do we want from them? We want them to understand that actions have consequences, General. Zorth said. They do understand, Krithos replied. That's why they're trying to fix their mistake instead of fighting us. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defender, Admiral Davis was monitoring the alien communications. Her ship's translation systems could pick up most of what was being said during the alien fleet meeting. Interesting, she said to Commander Foster. It sounds like they're having a serious debate about whether to continue this war. What do you think they'll decide? Foster asked. I think their admiral is smarter than his superiors gave him credit for. He knows this is pointless. Lieutenant Walsh looked up from her console. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. President Chun wants to speak with you. Davis nodded. Put him through. The president's face appeared on the screen. Admiral, what's your assessment of the situation? The alien fleet is having second thoughts, sir. Their commander seems to be a reasonable person who's been given unreasonable orders. Any chance they'll withdraw peacefully? I think so, sir. But they need a way to save face with their superiors. President Chun nodded thoughtfully. What do you suggest? Let me talk to their admiral. Military to military. Sometimes that works better than politician to politician. Do it. Admiral Davis opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. Admiral Krithos appeared on screen, looking tired and stressed. Admiral Krithos, I'm Admiral Carol Davis. I've been in situations like this before. Have you, Admiral Davis? Different circumstances, but the same basic problem. Orders that don't match reality. Superiors who don't understand the situation. On the ground, Krithos studied her face. What did you do? I made the best decision I could with the information I had. Then I dealt with the consequences later. The Council will not be pleased if I withdraw without completing our mission. Admiral, what exactly is your mission? To punish humans for filing paperwork incorrectly? Or to protect galactic law and order? To uphold the authority of the Galactic Council? Then let me ask you this. What better upholds that authority? Destroying a fleet over a filing error, or showing that the Council is reasonable enough to recognize when a mistake has been made? Krithos was quiet for a moment. Admiral Davis, in your professional opinion, how should this situation be resolved? Both. Fleets go home, no shots fired, no casualties? We set up a meeting between our governments to work out better procedures for handling disputes. Everyone learns from this experience and moves on. And if the Council disagrees with my decision? That's between you and your superiors, Admiral. But I can tell you this, if you order your ships to attack mine, a lot of good people are going to die for absolutely no reason. How many of my people would survive such an attack? Davis hesitated. Admiral, you don't want me to answer that. Question, how many? Probably none. The stark honesty hit Krithos like a physical blow. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was different. Admiral, he said slowly, if I order my fleet to withdraw, will you allow us to leave peacefully? Of course. We'll even provide escort to make sure you get home safely. Krithos looked around his bridge at his young crew members. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. These were people who had joined the military to serve their species and protect galactic peace. They didn't deserve to die over a paperwork dispute. "Admiral Davis," he said finally, "I am ordering my fleet to stand down and withdraw from human space." The relief on Davis's face was obvious. "Thank you, Admiral. You're making the right choice. I hope the Council sees it that way." 3 hours later, the alien fleet was preparing to leave the solar system. The human ships maintained a respectful distance, ready to escort them safely to the edge of human space. Admiral Krethos sat in his command chair, watching Earth grow smaller on his viewscreen. He had sent a detailed report to the Council explaining his decision, but he had no idea how they would react. His tactical officer approached. "Admiral, incoming message from the Galactic Council. Put it through." High Chancellor Vextar appeared on the screen, along with several other council members. Their expressions were unreadable. "Admiral Krethos," Vextar began, "we have received your report. You withdrew without completing your mission." "Yes, Chancellor, the situation was not as we understood it to be. You allowed the humans to avoid the consequences of their actions." "Chancellor, with respect, the humans have filed the proper paperwork, apologized for their error, and offered to relocate their mining operations. They have also proposed improvements to our dispute resolution procedures. I believe they have learned their lesson." Dr. Yelenara of the Peaceful Collective flickered with what might have been approval. "Admiral, do you believe the humans pose a threat to galactic peace?" "No, Doctor. I believe they are a reasonable species that made an honest mistake." "And, their military capabilities?" Krethos paused. "Formidable, but they showed remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed our entire fleet, but chose not to." The council members exchanged glances. Finally, Vextar spoke again. "Admiral, you are ordered to return to council space immediately. We will be conducting a full review of this incident." "Understood, Chancellor." The communication ended, leaving Krethos uncertain about his future. But as he looked back at the small blue planet that had somehow managed to avoid a war through simple diplomacy and common sense, he felt he had made the right choice. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in the newly expanded Galactic Council chambers. The humans had been given a permanent seat at the council table, and several new committees had been established to handle administrative disputes. "The council recognizes," High Chancellor Vextar announced, "that certain misunderstandings may have occurred regarding proper colonial procedures. We propose the establishment of a streamlined application process for future mining operations." Jake nodded, still sipping coffee from his favorite mug. "That sounds reasonable, Chancellor. We'd also like to share some of our conflict resolution protocols with the Council. We've developed some pretty effective ways to avoid unnecessary wars. That would be appreciated," Vextar admitted. As the session continued, Jake reflected on how much had changed in just 2 weeks. The shortest war in galactic history had lasted exactly 3 days and had been resolved without a single shot being fired in anger. The aliens had learned that declaring war over paperwork was probably not the best approach to dispute resolution, and humanity had learned that even in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations,